Okay, here we go on Radio FM 88 Australia. We're broadcasting from the Brisbane studios. And of course, it's nighttime here in Queensland, 7 o'clock. It's 8 o'clock for our visitors in New South Wales and Victoria, Tasmania and ACT. We just jumped across the daylight saving. Our good friends across New Zealand there is 10 o'clock. And of course, our co-host in the UK, none other than Andrena, Forrest, who for the very first time is sitting below me in the lobby, of course. It's 10 o'clock in the morning over there, and she's going to introduce our guest, who's been with us for a few times now. And I might add, I wish to defer to the audience to let you know that Michael has got his masculine divinity, and his auric field is now ready to receive the feminine divine energy. So if you read between the lips of what I've just said, you watch the show. All right? All right. Back to you, Andrena.
Hi, everybody. Welcome. And thank you for joining us on Dreaming the New Dream, whether you're live or on the replay. Today's the 6th of October, would you believe? Swiftly moving along. And it's a number 4 day for those that are in their numbers. Today, it's great pleasure that we have Michael Lamb back. And apparently, it's his 5th time. So I think Michael should be paying us now. Anyway, it's a real pleasure to have you back to share all your knowledge. And I know some of it I really can only barely scratch the surface. So I know you're going to talk about constellations, hidden meanings of sacred sites, and so much more. So welcome, Michael, and off you go.
Well, thank you very much, and good evening. Thank you, everyone, for having us in your program and your show this evening. It's a wonderful pleasure to be back. So tonight we're just doing the constellations, and we're working towards getting to the, I suppose, the Orion and Sirius, and then we'll talk about the Pleiades as well, and how those stars have an effect in the mapping on the planet. All right. Don't mind me, I've been out in the sun today, so it's been good. Yeah, so I'm fluxing in and out of different areas in my life. Interestingly enough, the constellations are about suns and stars. So they're the bigger brothers and sisters, or the fathers and mothers, or the great-grandfathers and great-grandmothers of our sun, our solar star, Tippereth, and our solar system as we journey through space and time and everything else in between, as it were. So we're getting some really good graphics up tonight. So we just want to talk about the actual constellations and how they work like a giant clock. Okay, so we grow. So there's 12 constellations. Obviously, we'll go through them one at a time and have a little bit of a look and a detailed observation of what's going on and the stars that make up those constellations and why they are that way. They're very, very powerful in the symbology. There's another aspect of tonight's talk I'd like to get into about the 3 crosses of Calvary, which relates to the fixed cross, the cardinal cross, and the mutable cross, which is basically, the constellations, as it were. So we've got a lot to cover, and I'll just take my time. I tend to talk rather fast because I get rather enthusiastic about life and the universe and everything else. And I'll present these constellations in a very laid-back way, rather than me going over the top with the energy from the Kabbalistic way. But it's also good to know what's the makeup of these constellations and why they have such a potency. So we have 12 constellations, like we have the 12 tribes of Israel. We have the 12 saints, or the 12 signs of the Zodiac, and the 12 numbers around the clock. So 12 becomes quite a significant thing, and also the 13 as well. But we'll look at numbers, and we'll get into a little bit of numerology as we roll along this evening. So we're actually working about time and actually how our soul grows through time and the 360 degrees of the Zodiac. So we're looking at it as a clock. You can just click on that, just as a slide there. If you want, Mr. Jeffrey, just click on that. That's right. See the clock there? You see these giant clocks in Europe. and some of the towers. So you're seeing it as the 12 signs of the zodiac within the 12. And you see the ring within the rings there. It's the balance between the sun and the moon, and also the sibling planets as we go out as well. We won't get into the planets tonight, but sun and moon have a balance between masculine and feminine. Sun being electric energy, fire, and the moon being lunar magnetic energy to the tides, and our liquid growth, in the astral planes, as it were. We will get into a little bit of that. It'd be good to get into aspects of the Kabbalah and the different bodies and how they're affected by the elements and the makeup. Once again, you're looking at 12, and then there's the 24 hours of the day. So 12 and 24. 24 is one of the key numbers. That's a little, you can play that. There's actually a little play button for that there if you want to hit that. Jeffrey, is it down below? You see a little triangle there? Oops, he's jumped there. Yeah, that's it. Okay, at the bottom, that's it. Yes, there you go. That's all right.
Oh, that's what speeding up time is then.
Yeah, well, I will be talking a little bit about clockwise and anti-clockwise, how the big ages actually go back. Like an age is over 2,000 years. We're in the age of Aquarius now. We've left the age of Pisces, and that's a 2,000-year aspect. Another aspect of the zodiac there. If you click on the little screen down below, you'll see there's an icon that has the slide projector there just next to the zoom. Yeah, and you click that, and then it just shows that particular picture. Yeah, just down there.
Where?
Yeah, see on the screen you've got there. Yeah, just slide down into the icons at the bottom of the bar. You see the slider just next to that. It's like a little slideshow screen. Icon. Yeah, you're nearly there. That's it. Click that. No, come back. That's your zooms. No. Zoom out a bit. That's it. Beautiful. Now come over to that. Yeah, click that. Boom. You want to click that. Okay. Boom. There you go. All right. Okay, and we're flying now. Okay. So we're going to be looking at the aspects, the symbolism, the sigils, and the signs and what they mean. Because when we work, I suppose, with spiritual knowledge in Kabbalah and alchemy and hermetics, particularly Hermetic Alchemy, we want to look at what the symbol means, the sign means, and the sigil. Okay, the sign, the symbol, and the sigil. It's like when you write an autograph, it's your sign. It's your sign. Mm-hmm. So different beings have that, and we'll point that out as we go along. And the energy that's associated with that. Isn't that interesting? There you go. So the planets there being affected by the stars around it. So our solar system relates to the planets, and those planets relate to our chakras, right? We have 7 main chakras, but we have other hidden chakras. Just stop it there, please, Jeffrey. There, if we're looking at that, we're also looking at other systems. We're looking at the Chinese zodiac there. They have another 12 as well. And also they work with the I Ching and the Bagua, okay, which is the 8 times 8, the 64. A little bit beyond what we're talking about tonight with the constellations, but you have the 12 signs, of course, of the Chinese zodiac, and they do it over a 60-year cycle, which is a combination of Jupiter and Saturn. They create in the 60-year cycle. Next time I'll bring up an animation where you can see where Jupiter and Saturn create a dance of the 5-point star, the pentagram, and the 6-point star, the hexagram or the hex star, over 60-year cycles. So in these 12 points, you'll see how they write these big stars in the sky. And they're actually beyond the 2-dimensional. They're actually 3-dimensional geometric figures. So these aspects relate to the lines of crystals and things like that. I don't know where that came from.
That was me swimming along.
So keep your clothes on. All right. So with the 12 signs of the Chinese zodiac, we'll get into that at another time. I'd love to do a particular special on that. Obviously, it starts off with rat, and then ox, and then tiger, and then rabbit, then dragon, then snake, and horse, and blah 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 blah. We'll go into that at another time. But it's important because it's good because you've got like twin aspects, and once again, they're to a system that's much older. And that's why we're going to find out about later when we talk about these other systems like Orion, which is incidentally very interesting. It's one of the first constellations that people see as children. They just say, oh, it's a big dip with a saucepan. as opposed to any other of the zodiac signs, and I find that very intriguing. So we'll have a bit of a discussion in depth about that. So thank you very much. Exactly, we can roll on. Oh my goodness, there's different zodiac. Hanging on right there. Now that is the Mayan. That's their zodiac, and their calendrical system is very, very different to us. They're tracking a lot more different things. They use it's a very feminine cycle. It works to the moon. They use a 20-day count and then a 13 within that. 20 and a 13. The 13 is to the lunar, and the 20 is to a time cycle matrix. But it's a little bit deep for most people. You'll notice in the top right-hand corner on that particular chart, you'll see a dragon. Yeah, dragons seem to be synonymous in a lot of the ancient zodiacs. So dragons, which we see as mythical creatures. Ironically, I do have a presentation on dragons and dinosaurs that I find you'd be interested in, because every single culture on the planet that I know of has dragons in it some regards. So we don't know how much of our history has been distorted, but there seems to be a very, very strong connection with that energy. So people that relate to the dragon from the West, they're sort of more malevolent, and in the East, they're more benevolent. So many different types of dragons. That's a whole new talk about. So that's the Mayan calendrical system. And once again, the word calendar comes from Kali. All right, that's the Indian Vedic system of astrology. Very similar to the West, but different. They're more accurate with the sidereal. So we can just roll along there, Jeffrey. How are we going? We all good? No one's getting blown out? Am I not talking too fast? That's good.
No, excellent.
All right, just as an overview, I'm just using one example here. Stonehenge is actually an ancient calendrical calendar system, and most of the stone circles around the world, whether they be at Brittany, or you could go to places in Ireland, too many to mention right now, or Mesoamerica, they seem to all have these stone observatories. So when you hit solstice or equinox, I've seen it at Angkor Wat, at the ancient barrows, they line up to the sun. So there's a powerful significance there. So we have our summer solstice and our winter solstice. We have our autumn equinox and our spring equinox. So it's divided into the 4 seasons, as it were, as we transgress across the planet. Obviously northern hemisphere and southern hemisphere are different to seasons, where it's winter in the north, it's summer in the south, and vice versa. And the equinoxes is where night and day is at actual equal proportions. And then as you go into summer, the days get longer. And Andrena's holiday there, that's what I thought we'd get into. Back to Stonehenge with lightning.
I need some sunshine and some warm waters. Obviously, there's a message there.
Plenty of that this weekend for myself as well. That I need to get into the water, which is great. So I'll be going to either the Sunny or the Goldie. Oh, actually, I'm probably going to Northern Rivers and getting into the Northern Ocean there. It's beautiful. So yeah, hanging out with the dolphins and the whales and all sorts of creatures. Hey, whoa. What have you been drinking? Like triple shots of coffee. Okay, here we are. All right, first sign, Aries, the ram. Okay, so it's a ram. So it's a male sheep. You can see it there. And the symbol there is obviously the ram's head. You can just see that there to the left of your screen, or it might be the right of your screen there. The actual artwork we're going with there, yeah, that's Joffrey. He was a 1920s and 30s artist from Holland. Once again, I think he took on a lot of the energy of the Dutch masters. There's a lot going on in that particular artwork of Aries. See the symbol, and you see the sign of the ram, and there's the sigils as well. And there's a lot going on in those particular pieces of artwork. So obviously Aries is to fire, and it comes back before the Aquarian age. We've just kicked off. We had the Piscean age, which is obviously the age of the fishes, and before that we had the age of the ram, or Aries, or the Aryan age. All right, so you had a big influence from the Ramses pharaohs, and the Aryan. So you're in the age of the ram and the ram. So symbolically, you'll see that on vehicles like, a Dodge Ram, there's many ram lines. The amount of corporate and company logos associated with astrology would blow your mind. I'd like to blow your minds with that. I would just show you. It's just so hidden in plain sight, and it actually beguiles people when you point it out to them. They don't understand it, but more on that as we go along. So the ram, and it relates to Mars. So the very first number one, we're to the one we're on. Okay, so it kicks off. So it's a very powerful energy. It's a very raw fire. The emotions obviously are impulsive and a drive and energy to get things kick-started. That's the main aspect of Aries, the ram. You'd find it. Are you obsessed with that photo? There we go. There's a ram. So you see the symbology and the symbol of the ram. Okay, very powerful. I don't know if anyone's been hit by one. I have. Obviously didn't like me when I was younger, and they hit. So it's a very powerful drive, very impulsive fire. There's a lot of positive energy with the ram. I do. My father's an Aries, so I know the energy quite well. They're very, very caring, and they look after their own, as it were. There's a lot more emotions associated with that, but we'll be getting onto that because I do have astrology and a tarot site that I'm building now. So I'll be doing tarot and astrology readings for people that want to know it. Yes, exactly. These are the stars of the shape of the ram. It's actually the head part of the ram, because the ram is all about the head and that kind of headstrong fire. So those stars, their names are just off the top: Hamel and Sheraton, and other Arabian names I'm not going to pronounce, but they're the main stars. So that's the driving force. So each of the stars have names, and many of the names go right back to Phoenicia and that part of the world, as well as many of the Arabian cultures as well. So it's interesting. You find that Ram, R-A-M, Ra, who's a sun god, okay, of Egypt, Ra. And also you have that combination of Amun Ra and also Israel, and you'll find it in Rabbi. So it's very powerful, that Ra. And in Kabbalah, it's obviously going to be to a very powerful gold color, but I won't go into that because it's a little bit beyond the scope of tonight's class and teaching. So Ra and Ram, so it's Ra. It's a roaring energy, as it were. You like that? We're going to go back to
God knows.
Exactly. You people are too serious. The second sign, obviously, by the way, Aries is to the mutable cross. To the cardinal cross. Excuse me. Yeah, it's to the cardinal. It's the first sign on the cardinal cross. Thank you very much. Got thrown there by thrown a little bit by the underwater photos. The second sign is Taurus the bull. Taurus the bull, it relates obviously to the bull and the cow energy. It's very, very strong. It's the first earth sign in the zodiac. It's the second sign in, and it has a lot of strength and power. We'll have a look at this later if we get into the fixed cross, and we'll look at the symbolism that comes along there. Taurus is a very strong and powerful sign. Bull symbolism is massive on this planet, absolutely gargantuan. Taurus symbolism, it has a lot of strength and beauty, and it's about growth and massive aspects. Obviously, to the planet of Venus, to beauty and joy and fulfillment and many of these other emotions. We'll do that more in an astrology class. But just looking at the artwork there that our friend Geoffrey has done, there's a lot of symbolism and a lot of deeper sigils, planetary principles, angels, and diva that's actually put in the artwork. Many of the older ancient or veteran artists used to hide a lot of symbolism in their artwork, so there's a lot more going on, whereas things today are a lot more sanitized and very, very, very rather boring, as opposed to, I suppose, ancient architecture art. and dance, symbolism, and sculpture, as it were. So there's a lot more going on there. So Taurus relates to the earth element, very strong, and Venus and beauty and many other different aspects that are very, very strong. You can see the symbol looks just like the bull. Also, with the bull symbolism, it can relate to buffalo and bison and oxen and water buffalo and many of the different types of bulls. So it's a universal symbol. It's massive across the planet, bull symbolism, and it's venerated obviously in India. The bull is where it's desiccated or degraded in Texas. They put the bull's horns on the Cadillacs. Bull culture is massive. It's a huge and very, very powerful symbol. It's relates to Lamborghini. They use the bull. Wall Street has the bull on the mark, the giant bull there. Bull symbolism is huge. Goes right back way beyond the aspects of this particular presentation. We can go through Canaan and Babylon and things like this. These are the actual star layout. This is the actual astronomy we're looking at here of Taurus. So the main red giant star is very easy to see in the sky if you're looking at this particular constellation, is Aldebaran. It's a powerful red giant, and it relates to cultures that have been here before. I won't go into those details, but what I will do is say that connected to this constellation, we'll get into detail with the fixed cross and the fixed stars, is the Pleiades are part of Taurus, that constellation, the Pleiades. So you have 7 sisters and 2 parents there with the Pleiades. We'll get into that because there's a lot of connection to ancient mythology and what it means. And in the ancient myths and legend, there's actually a lot of truth. There's also the Hyades and the Crab Nebula is part of Taurus. So there's some significant power in the energy here. So you got a lot of big stars, a lot of energy, a lot of drive, that's there. So it's about confidence, home, building, making, drawing material things to oneself, things of beauty and growth and harmony, as it were. Taurus, the bull, first of our fixed star signs, and to the planet Venus. Moving on now to Gemini. It's the 3rd sign of the zodiac, and it's our first air sign, and it's the first of our mutable cross. All right, it's a mutable cross, and it's to Mercury. Mercury people, they have a mercurial mind. So you'll find very, very engaging entertainers that are like comedians, like the Eddie Izzards or the Jim Carreys or Robin Williams. Those kind of people, they're real wordsmiths in the highest aspect of intellect. Gemini is very fast. There's 2 aspects to Gemini when we look at it from a Hermetic point of view. There's the mental mind and there's the spiritual mind. So spiritual mind, you want that kind of energy flowing through. So it's air, it's fast, it's flighty, it moves quite quickly. In the symbolism there of Joffre's work there, you'll see there's a lot of Hermetic symbolism here and a lot of alchemical symbolism going on. So you see the unicorn and the lion. Obviously, you've seen them on heraldic crests and things like that. There's a lot of power. There's a lot of things that goes on there. You'll see the 2 pillars. If you look at the top of the pillars, you'll have the sun and the moon, masculine and feminine, which is what the 2 pillars represent. And you can be in a masculine body, but having a lot of feminine energy in this particular life cycle in your soul. And you can be in a masculine energy, vice versa, as it were. And you can be feminine being influenced by the masculine and masculine being influenced by the feminine. So what it's showing there, you'll see it. There's a real alchemical aspect going on there with the twins. So it's a blending of energy, as the air does. It has those kind of characteristics. Gemini is a very fast, flighty kind of sign. It's the fastest planet. Mercury moves around the sun in about 88 days. So that's not even 10 days or even 11 days in a sign. It's less than 11 days in a sign. The next fastest to the the moon. You'll see the caduceus there in the middle. You see in that symbolism, the caduceus is to the wand of Hermes. Hermes is Hermetics. Hermes is the messenger of the gods. So Hermes is the Greek name for Mercury. All right. Mercury is the Romanized name or the Latin name of Hermes. And if you go to the Egyptian name, it would be Thoth. All right. Thoth, I've said a god. There's a lot to do with the bird-headed gods and goddesses. Bird culture and avian culture is synonymous throughout many of the world's cultures, particularly with star lore, star magic, and things along those lines, as it were. So there's a lot going on there. And notice the serpents, the twin serpents. That's Kundalini, or what you would call the DNA strands, as it were, which is the marrying up. Also, it's at the top of that. You'll have the wand of Hermes. So you'll see that. Yeah, just below that, you'll see that ball, which represents the pineal gland, which is soul awakening. And the two wings is like your soul freedom. So when you are ascending or moving Kundalini fire, or the two serpents, which are masculine and feminine, or magnetic and electric, each time they cross, it activates a chakra. So you're balancing that energy. Finally, as you come up to the pineal pituitary, you're going to activate, obviously, your Ajna third eye, and pituitary is going to be working with your crown, and then transpersonal and other, chakras involved with that. So serpent energy and avian energy is going to be very prevalent in this knowledge, but it's deeper knowledge. So this is what we study in Hermetic Alchemy, Kabbalah, and many of the other various teachings that are there from the east and the west, as it were. So we're very good with symbology. You're seeing the twin symbology is quite prevalent throughout the human world, as well as the animal kingdom. Sometimes there is twin, masculine and feminine, as it were. And also, so that's your symbolism. So twins are not too uncommon. Triplets a little bit more rare. Quadruplets even rarer. Quintuplets, whatever. So this is sort of the age. So twins are very, very, I suppose, very in tune with each other, are they not? Twins are. You've seen that before when they dress the same and they have similar characteristics. Actually, some of the greatest magicians around the turn of the century had a twin that they would work with, when they're doing the on-stage antics, some of the very dangerous performances, when one would appear and the other would disappear. They would have a secret twin. Obviously, you can see that in the movies and, many of the great magicians, but some of the secrets are being spilled. That's the astronomical sign for Gemini. The two main stars, we'll just deal with the two main ones. They're Castor and Pollux. I mean, they made a movie about that, Face Off, obviously. John Woo was the director. But the Castor and Pollux relate back once again to the mythology. And I'm just using the Mediterranean as a base here. Otherwise, I'll be talking about the Norse, and we'll be over to Sumeria, and we'll be over in India, and then we'll be over in Japan, and then over West America. I love it because I find the commonality, or they share very similar energies and depth of magic. And it's not taking away or stealing any of the energy. It's respecting it for what it is and seeing that these languages are of a universal nature. So language, linguistics, color, sound, number, shape, structure, that's what we're at, and that's what we're learning about exactly this evening. So Gemini, the twins, Castor and Pollux. And that was the mutable, first mutable. We're now moving to our second cardinal sign, which is Cancer, the crab. Right. Now, the name Cancer, I mean, if you even look it up for symbolism, is obviously you're going to get a lot of pictures that aren't very pleasant with people. So if you want the real ancient Sanskrit name for Cancer, it is Tashia, which is a lot nicer than Cancer. A lot of people like that I say that. So I do have it here. It's part of the Cancer constellation if you're into stars and star lore. So Tashia and El Nath, they're the main stars that are in Cancer. So if you're Cancer and you don't like the name, Tashia in Sanskrit, far, far older and more ancient, and a lot more grunt to it. So Cancer obviously is the crustaceans and the water element. So obviously the sign is going to have a lot of those elements about the particular sign. So people in their shells, and there's so many different types of crabs and different crustaceans as well, you know, everything from lobsters to, I don't know, thousands of different crabs and things like that. But what they're doing is like it's like this shell. They go in the shells, they retreat, and we go through this as well. It's not like we're just controlled by a sun sign. Our moon sign's very powerful as well, and also our rising sign is where we're sort of ascending and going to. So if you want the makeup, it's not just your sun sign, it's your moon sign as well as your ascending sign. Has a lot to do. And then the mathematics of your personality is going to be within the planets and where they sit within the houses and how they're being influenced in different houses with different respects to different. So it's actually like a mathematical and geometric formula of elements and symbols. That's what you are. So rather than just 12 personalities on the planet, that's far from that. And then you've got all the different types. It's like cats or dogs. You have hundreds of different types of dogs and hundreds of different types of cats, and you've got all the wild aspects of those particular creatures as well. So there's a lot that you can draw from there rather than just sort of writing it off as, oh, they're just that. So Cancer, the crab, Tulshia, I want that exact pronunciation. I just keep this as an interesting side note because people have asked me about it before because they don't like the name. I won't go into it. Otherwise, I'm going to get caught up with all these friggin' names. So, Evangelist, that's okay. I wasn't here to read. Anyway, so powerful stars in Cancer or Tulshia would be El Nath. What else we got? Oh, yeah. Akubans. In the night sky, it's not particularly bright or dominant. It's not as obvious as, say, Aries, Taurus, and Gemini because the mutable and fixed signs are quite noticeable, whereas a lot of the cardinal ones are, I'll get into it, but Cancer's quite demure because it's in between, you know, Gemini and Leo, so they're quite obvious signs to see in the sky if you're looking, if you've got your little app on your phone, or if you're good at mapping stars. You know, I map them because I'm a star navigator. That's my thing. That's what I like to do. So it has a lot to do with soul travel. When people pass over, there's something to do, I believe, with Hawaii and the sacred island Kauai and the traversing of souls in and out of this planet. More on that later when we get into, I suppose, outer planets and the secrets that may be there. It might be too much, obviously, for this particular presentation. Just an overview there of Cancer. The people are very too much feeling and soft-natured, and also they're very homely. And there's other aspects about them too, but we'll get into that when we do a proper astronomy, astrology kind of evening. Leo the Lion, pretty obvious what we're looking at here. We're looking at fire and a fixed sign. It's a very, very strong sign in the sky. Leo people are very, very proud, and they carry themselves well. Generally, they're very, very good. And we're looking at Leo being a fixed star sign, and then Leo has a lot of energy in regards to the big suns that are actually in the constellation. There's actually galaxies behind Leo, so there's a lot of power there. The two big suns that I know off the top of my head are, of course, Regalis in the head of Leo and Denebola. So Leo relates to our sun, and it is a very, very powerful sign. The fixed crosses have really, really strong stars. They're quite. It has like it's a yellow giant. So if you look at that sun that is actually in Leo, that is the star Regalis. I believe it's triple sun in its power. So it's quite magnetic and quite electric at the same time. It has a lot of energy there. So Leo's, as you know, very, very strong. The symbolism on the planet, if you go to sacred places, it's unmistakable. We'll get to that when we look at the fixed stars. Now, I'll show you about some of these places and where these signs are very, very prevalent and how they relate to different cultures. very predominantly. So Leo, the lion you will see just about on every single town hall. Outside Chinatown, you'll see the foo dogs, which is actually like a half dog, half lion. You'll have manticores and gargoyles and things like that. They're a hybrid species of the lion, but the lion is used as a guardian and also as a watcher and a protector of values that are like the actual personality. There's the astronomy there of the actual Leo constellation. So in the head there, the strongest yellow star is Regalis, Regal, Regalis, so we get that from, and Denobola. These names are old, they're very ancient, they're not like I'm making them up. They go right back to at least a millennia, but some of them more than 2-3 millennia as well. So many of the stars were named after the Arabian Nights, as it were, or that particular time, well prior to Renaissance times, when astronomy and astrology became very, very popular again. Or astronomy has always been prevalent in any culture anyway. As I said, you go to Mesoamerica or China or Lapland or wherever, you'll find those kind of energies. So Leo, obviously, to the lion, cat-like energy, but different cats have got different personalities. So don't be fooled. A tiger is a completely different personality to a lion. A lion, male lion, is the pride. The females do the hunting in the lion's pride. The male is a protector, and they're very much a family orientated, a pride of lions, where a tiger is a solitary creature. So if we looked at it in the Chinese, okay, the tiger is it's a solitary character, whether it be a Bengal tiger or a Siberian tiger. They like the water and they like being on their own. The mother looks after the cubs and then you're out on your own kind of thing, whereas the lion's opposite. So just two cat personalities there. We'll look at that in different aspects when we get to Sirius and the dog stars as well. So there we have Leo. Moving on to Virgo, nature's gift. Obviously, there's many different depictions of Virgo. She's the second sign. She's an earth sign, the second in our mutable cross. And obviously, that's 90 degrees to Gemini. So we're looking at these crosses, the three crosses, which is what Christianity set up on. I know people call me a blasphemer, but that's the truth. That's what it's all set up on. Stars were there before, and many of the cultures are, and it gets perverted. I suppose religions get very much manipulated for the control of people, but actually the original truths and that there was some very, very good teachings there, and there still is too as well. There's a lot of very, very good values there as well. So Virgo to the Virgin, but nature as well. It's self-perpetuating nature. So you're looking at Virgo. Its planet is Mercury, and it has many aspects to the Earth and growth and so keeping things on track, in line, in flow and in growth. There's aspects of the Virgin aspect is just the regrowth. Flowers bloom every season in the spring and through summer, and then we have all the leaves, and then we have the autumn, and that is like the harvest time, when just before the winter comes in again. So it's very much she's to the seasons and cycles of nature. Virgo represents that flow and that movement, and also it's a very, very analytical sign that one would use. In Virgo, you find that you declutter a lot. You get things organized. You're very, very together and put things where they're supposed to be. So there's the symbol there, and the sigil, and there's a lot of other angelic signatures there in that actual painting there by Joffrey. I love his art. I really, really do. I find that there's timeless pieces there. And it's interesting too, just in this piece of artwork, this painting here, the top star above her head, the strongest star in Virgo is Spica or Speaker, depending on your accentuation. And above it is a galaxy. All right? That particular galaxy represents the Virgo clusters. There's a stack of galaxies behind Virgo, and it's where our Milky Way galaxy is growing. So remember, our sun, our solar system, our sun and spirit, is growing through these 12 signs, like 12 teachers, okay, 12 cultures. So these stars are growing our sun. And then our our zodiac, or this part of our galaxy, or whether it be the Orion arm or the Capricorn arm, and the different aspects of these arms of the galaxy are moving towards other larger galactic clusters. So everything's in harmony and everything's in place and flowing through time. More on that later. So that's our Virgo, the Virgin. So nature, harmony, abundance. We live off foods of the earth, and that symbolizes what we put back into the earth as well. What we give back to the earth, what we reap, we sow, as it were. So the earth is symbolizing, the new day, the new dawn, and that time to actually create and be there in harmony with obviously the seasons. Our bodies, our physical bodies, come from the earth and they go back to the earth, whether even if you cremate or whatever. So there's that aspect of we're of the earth element and we go back. So obviously Virgo's to the earth element. There's the astronomical look at that Virgo there, and you're looking at that big yellow star being Spica. Has a lot of it. It represents the chaff of wheat if you actually look at the drawing. So it represents that growth and new growth and rebirth and many other adjectives that I won't cover right now. Okay. Did you just want to interject, or you're all good? We're flowing well?
No, you're flowing well.
Okay. Don't touch the screen. Don't touch the tech. It's working good. How you going there, Jeff? You're well? Yes. Yeah. Okay. All right. Libra, the scales. All right. So balance. Also representative. You'll see it outside the justice system. Balance. You'll see the statue with the sword and the scales, symbolic of balance. We're looking here at Joffrey's artwork. I find this beautiful. It enhances and takes it to a new level. You see the checkerboard, the Masonic tiles there, all right, on a checkerboard or on a game of chess is 8 by 8. Okay, that's quite interesting. And we're looking at Venus as being the planet that is ruled by Libra. Other people say, no, Venus rules Libra. Well, they're stars and they're bigger. So let's have a look at this. What's going on here? We have at the top of the actual artwork, we have the sun and the moon, and there seems to be a reciprocal energy between masculine and feminine, between magnetism and electric energy, or the tides and the movement of atmosphere. So everything is flowing. Once you're born on this planet, you're breathing. You have smack on the bum, bang, you're breathing, you're in life. Everything you're doing is changing. Yeah, you're moving. You're starting to affect karma, or cause and effect, as it were. Yeah. So you're looking at the two beings there. The one, obviously, on the right is, cow-headed god, goddess of Egypt. I've got Thoth on the left with the two cobras, and Hathor is the Taurian. So she has the bull's head. Okay, she's to life and balance. Hathor. Remember, when we change and age, we have a changing of the gods, as it were. So it's like in the Greek Macedonian law, you have the end of the Titans, their age. And those names, there's 12 titans and gods and goddesses, and then you have the Olympian gods and goddesses come over, they take over, and then they phase out every 2,000 years. It's the same as in Egypt as well. The next age, of course, was Horus and Isis and Osiris, that kind of age. But before, you've got all the gods before, like Ptah and these very old gods. Looking at the symbolism there, you can see Hermes, Thoth. This is Egyptian, and you can see that the cobra it's balancing the energy of Kundalini fire. It's like an awakened soul, and that kind of energy we'll get into a little bit later. You'll see on the Thoth side, on the symbology here, you'll see the feather, which is what we get into when we pass over. If our souls are clean, we balance a lot of our energy. Our soul will not tip the weight against a feather. And that is the heart. Okay, that's the heart, your heart and your soul are weighed, as it were. But there's a lot of the symbology in many of the ancient papyruses and texts and many of the different temples. You'll see that. Below these two beings, you'll see, like, for example, that blending of the energy of the air coming like a storm or a hurricane or atmosphere. Yes, you'll see that. Turning into a yin and yang, which is balancing energies or elements as we go through our day. On the checkerboard of life, you see a rose, and there's a 5-pointed rose there in the symbols, as well as the cube. All right, that cube. You'll see that cube symbology is called the Kaaba. Kaaba, spelled with a K. And you have 2 sphinxes guarding it, a masculine and a feminine sphinx. All right. The male sphinx is a Lamassu, and the female sphinx, depending whether they be lion orientated or depending on, they have different names as sphinxes, and whatever different types of sphinxes represent different things. The sphinx is actually the key to what we call in alchemy Shambhala, and that's what the sphinx is about. So it's half lion, half Virgo. So it's half Leo and half Virgo. So it's transition and energy about that. You're just not going to get that at the coffee club, are you? That kind of conversation. So the Kaaba actual stone is what they worship in Mecca. All right. And this is not being sacrilegious. This is exactly what it is. It's a black cube. All right. And supposedly it's from a meteorite. So meteorites are very symbolic and very, very powerful in capstones or in lore and legend, that they hold, something from the heavens. There's different types of meteorite, stone, and metals. You have, obviously moldavite, you have tektites, and you have meteorite metals and things like that. And they have quite a high-ranking connection to different aspects of alchemical law and Masonic law, and also layouts of temples. So certain stones, also they're very, very popular. They have a high vibrational energy. A lot of people can't wear those kind of stones. It takes them, trying to drive their car, and they feel like they're going to, move into another dimension or something. Molecules and atoms start spilling all over the place. Need a little bit more grounding. Yeah, exactly. Why don't you start with some granite, something basic. So, yeah, that's Libra. And once again, the scales of justice, many aspects can be said about that, so sword of Damocles and things like that. The 2 stars, once again, Libra relates to the opposite of Aries. It's on the cardinal cross. It's to air, the air element, balancing air. Air itself is an element. It's quite an interesting challenge if you've been working with a lot of elemental energy building, which is, where people ask me, why do you have this? It's working with elemental energy, building energy, as it were, meditating on it. So 2 big stars there on the scales. I'll see if I can pronounce them. I'm going to have to read them because they. I'll do it. Okay. Zubin El Ganubi, obviously, which relates to the flying magical moose, of course. It's 6 syllables. So, and Zubin El Shamali. They're the 2 stars of the scales of Libra. So, interestingly enough, not well-known stars, and obviously why? Because their name takes a thesaurus and several language applications to actually mention. So that's Libra, the scales. Thank you very much. The sky. Moving on to the big fixed sign now, which is Scorpio, the scorpion. A very, very powerful sign, no doubt about it. Basically because of 1 star in its heart. This is a very, 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 very powerful. Do you know the name of the star in the heart of the scorpion? It's a red giant. You can't miss it in the sky. It's just like power, particularly when Mars goes next to it. It's like, every 600 days, 680 odd days when Mars goes past, like red. So the name of that star is Antares. Antares, very ancient name, and it's about 500 times the size and power of our sun. So certain times it can upset radio waves. So let's have a look at the symbology of Scorpio. It's one of the big powerhouses in the sky. There's a lot of energy. When you know a Scorpion, obviously they can be your best friends or your worst enemies, like all the signs really. But Scorps are interesting. So look at the symbology here. Even in the tarot, obviously, Scorpio represents the high arcana, death and resurrection, as it were, or rebirth, as it were. So you're looking at a knight in the background there with the dragon. All right, there's a lot of power. Scorpions are very deep. They're not very surface people. They're very, very good investigators. I have a lot of that in my chart. When it comes to investigating, I go deep. I don't take the surface. I don't listen to any mainstream anything. To me, it's just rubbish. You always go deep, like a psychic detective. For example, if there's been an accident or something, you really want to know what really happened, because things don't add up. They don't feel right with you. So scorps are like that. Also, that's whether you see the baby there in the corner on the left. I know some people think that is really, really dark, but it's not a baby with a skull. So, with alchemy, the skull represents knowledge and wisdom, and also death and rebirth, because everything dies and everything regrows again. Nature shows us that. You've got to understand that. It's a physical death, but there's also like rebirth of our soul and our spirit. We resurrect. Well, reincarnation is different to resurrection, but that's a little bit too Hermetic alchemy for most people here. There's a difference, okay? All right. So we'll look at the Scorpio. Scorpions are different. Okay, they're not like a spider. A spider has 8 legs, but a Scorpio is very, very different. It's the only animal that will commit suicide too. If you corner a scorp and it has got no way out, it'll sting itself and things like that. Little interesting thing there. Have a look in the background on the sky. You'll notice an eagle. So in alchemy, we call it the eagle. So when you see eagle symbology, which is basically at least, I'd say, nearly a dozen or 2 dozen major countries use eagle symbology. Many of the crests, double-headed eagle, is synonymous throughout Europe. You could interchange it with the condor in South America, although eagles are different. They haven't got a different energy, but it's a very, very powerful bird. Once again, eagle symbology is very strong. So the eagle, when you see it in symbology, is relating to Scorpio and a lot more. There in front of the scorpion, you see the water. Scorpio relates to water, but once again, with fixed signs, they have a dual nature about them. They've got a dual nature. So it's like a very volatile. It's like the strongest aspect of the water. It has that aspect that is like a fiery water. So atmospheric, power. You need atmosphere. So a lot of people understand how birds move, like pelicans, and they move up thermal. So it's spiral up or spiral down. And this is the key to atmosphere when you study Druid law, or if you're working with extreme sports and that, you want to know what's happening with the weather. So you're looking at low pressure systems and high pressure systems. So that is weather law and law of nature. Scorpio has a lot to do with that. I find it anyway. In front of the scorpion, you see the symbol there with the M with the tail. That is a 12-sided pentagon, right? So that is what's called a dodecahedron. We use that in advanced alchemy and hermetics. It's a 3-dimensional pentagram. Some people are flat out just working at the 5-point star. I mean, that's really good when you start with spiritual knowledge. The 5-point star is very, very powerful. It has hundreds of meanings and hundreds of metaphors. But the 3-dimensional version of that is a dodecahedron. And it's very, very key when you're doing dowsing and magnetism to ley lines. You'll understand where points and vortex points work on this planet. So where a lot of powerful magnetism affects aircraft or ships and things like that. Things like the Bermuda Triangle or the Devil's Triangle or Antarctica or the Arctic Circle. And there are these other places. There's 12 of them across the planet. And they have a relationship to that. If you put that on the globe of the planet, you'll have these massive areas of vortex energy. And it's a key to time and space, okay, and how to move through that. So a lot going on there. Card number 13 on the High Arcana is our Scorpio, and it's the water aspect of our fixed cross as we get closer to it. Thank you very much. Scorpion with almonds. All right, there it is in the sky. Just before you come to, that's not a great one, but it's good enough. That'll do. It's a bit of a scribble, that particular astronomical thing they're trying to tack things on. In the tail is like a sting, and there's the 2 claws. There's a better aspect of it. But where the heart is, the brightest star, that's Antares, and that's the heart of the Scorpio. And when you do a lot of navigating of stars, you can find where a lot of things are. Just like, when you divine off the Southern Cross or the 2-pointers, in the Southern Hemisphere, you can find galactic center with the heart of the Scorpio and Sagittarius, which is incidentally our next sign as we move along. Sagittarius. A lot of signs have a dual nature. Sagittarius is one of them. You're looking at a centaur. So these are the mythical hybrid beasts and creatures that seem to be in many, many cultures. So you have centaurs, minotaurs, satyrs, and many other half hybrid species. All right. So they're written about. Sagittarius relates to the planet Jupiter, and it has a lot of energy. Sagittarians make great teachers. This is the third sign in our mutable cross. It's fire, a lot of fire. And it's like, just like the sign, it's like an arrow and a bow, and it's like direct right at you. Boom, you know. That's a Sagittarius. So you'll know that if you've ever been in a relationship with them or you have them in your family. They're very direct. And they have that, they make great teachers. Also, the half aspect is the human nature, okay, like the spiritual aspect, and also a connection to nature, and I suppose our primordial, our primeval aspect. There's a lot of energy with Sagittarius. Centaurs are, once again, so you got like a horse's nature. So aspects, if you understand horse nature and horse law, get into that a little bit more, because that's part of the Chinese zodiac as well. There's actually in our Western zodiac as well, just outside of, just not far from Aquarius and these other signs. There's actually two other horse signs, Aquinas, and there's another centaur in the sky as well. But that's getting off our zodiac. We'll get later as we talk about these other zodiac signs, and then we can get into the other ancient signs just outside our zodiac. Sagittarius, great teacher, relates to Jupiter. So Jupiter, as a planet, is looked at as the spiritual sun of our solar system. Great teacher. So Jupiter's Greek name, or Macedonian Greek name, is Zeus. Okay, does that make sense? It's Zeus. And Zeus takes Hera as a wife. So Jupiter's obviously into civility and order and getting things straight. So Zeus. If you go to Sanskrit, the term for Sagittarius or Jupiter means guru, great teacher, as it were. So you can find it; it's interchangeable. Let's go swimming again. That's great. One day I'm going to take this seriously. I will.
No, don't.
Hundreds and hundreds of students over the years. That's wonderful. That's great. So, yeah.
You've got the unicorn down there. You've got Yodi over here.
Yeah, there's a lot going on. I wasn't going to go into the speculation. So there's wisdom and great teachings there. And there is... The unicorn is symbolic. We do know from a fact that they did exist here. They were hunted down, obviously, because of what's in the horns, which is what's happening with the bear bile and that today. Is a lot of creatures are getting, milked or sort of taken out because of these idiotic, selfish, negative people that take advantage and hunt it down. And then science just said, oh, no, it's just a mythological creature. Yeah, well, most of those guys are going to be mythological creatures in the future too, because of the way they're not adapting to this, the metaphysical science that we work with. So once again, there's great wisdom here hidden, and there's a lot of truth. And it's also that point of that bow in the sky, that arrow in the bow is pointing to galactic center. But there's a little magic in that if you're interested in that. It's like divining true south from the 2 pointer stars, Alpha Centauri and Alpha Proximus, and you do it with the Southern Cross and the line and bang, true center. So, a lot of sailors and navigators, so on and so forth, use this particular these old signs as it were. So, and if you're if you're a lucid dreamer and you're stuck out in the realms, you've got real navigation, because you won't have your phone with you. So you've got points of reference if you're going into fourth and fifth dimensional consciousness. So I do teach aspects of inception and how to, wake up in your dreams so you can, get around the astral planes, as it were. That seems to be a little bit more beyond than most people, but lucid dreaming is a natural part of your soul and becoming awake, rather than sort of you being controlled by your nightmares or your dreams. You actually start to wake up in the dreams, and you can start to work in the astral planes and master and find your own place or space, as it were, like many of
I'd like to know more about that sometime, about dreams and lucid dreaming.
Oh, that'll be number 6. Jeffrey shakes his head.
No, we've got to do the dragon one, I think.
Oh, the dragon.
Anyway.
Wait till we get to the fixed stars.
What's this dude here? What's this thing? What's that?
That is the golden fleece. That,
What that is?
see that
Okay.
with symbology of Orion.
Era. Yeah.
Yeah, okay. The golden fleece is the key to the alchemical formulas of alchemy. It's like how to turn lead into gold. But there's a lot of metaphors with that, because it's not for, the amateurs, even the advanced people that think they know a lot of this knowledge. There's a lot of depth to that, what's actually going on in the golden fleece. Remember, Jason and the Argonauts, they set out, they have, the 12 tests, and then Hercules goes off and does another 12 tests, and all the tests relate to the Zodiac, once again, the Nemean lion and the crab and the Scorpio crushed on the foot, all that, that's basically, it keeps telling you you're going to be growing through the stars. That's the real truth, or the symbology, or if you want to look at it as a metaphor. So in that, he's aiming for the stars. You see the god in the background there in the sky. There's like a powerful, obviously one of these greater gods that have an influence there. So this centaur is on the pathway. Now, we've had centaurs in the past. Some of the more famous centaurs, of course, there's obviously Sagittarius that we're looking at as well, but there's the wounded healer, which is Chiron. Okay, Chiron was the teacher of Hercules and many of the others. All right, he was a centaur, so very wise. He taught Hercules, and Hercules or Heracles was a demigod. So a demigod has one god parent and one mortal parent, whether it be masculine or feminine, as it were. Greg George has sent me some. The Galactic Center, 27 degrees Sagittarius, where we may come into alignment with the truth of our heart. Well done there, Greg George. I've got all your albums and all your CDs and your DVDs only here on 88.8 FM Australia, bringing the new dream.
Yeah, there's a few questions. Maybe we can.
Pardon?
There's a few questions. Maybe we can address them when we finished.
Yeah, we'll just do this and then we'll see.
Yeah.
Just look at the time. Okay. Is that the time?
Don't want to stop your flow.
No, I'm only three signs away. We can get this. That's Sagittarius. That's a symbol.
Of course, Jeff is Sagittarius, so he wants to know everything that's going on here. So
yeah, you got Yoda in the background, mate. Look. Okay, so they're wise. So you see people that will go off on a sojourn, whether they be like a monk or a druid. They will connect with nature, and they tend to feign away from mainstream Western society or Eastern society. The monks, of course, in Asia and as well. So they live a very, very simple life. So there's hardly any sort of disturbance there. So there's that wisdom as well. They don't want to be disturbed. They're quite strong in the nature, and they want to point the truth out to people. Obviously, obviously they can have a short temper with people that don't get their stuff together, obviously with tech or things like that. So they can have that sort of short fuse. They want to help. They give a lot of advice, such as like, do this. You check this out. Hey, have you checked this out? What you do? They give a lot of that kind of advice because they want the aspect of Jupiter is quite civil. It is to society and making things work. So it's that Jupiter and Jove, or Zeus and Hera, Guru and the Shakti. You've got that balance of masculine and feminine, mercantile and shops and schools and roads. It's a very, very civil aspect of society, or making things work and flow. People say, I want to escape from society. You can do that. That's the other aspect of coming, like the hermit aspect. It's Sagittarius. It's to temperance as well in the High Arcana, Cardinal 14.
There's about eight nature spirits in here.
Nature spirits.
You see them in green?
Yes. Yeah, there's a lot going on. Or he's looking into the symbols. There's a lot going on in these particular aspects. So,
and this thing here, what's that? The key or something? What's going on?
That's the sigil. The sigil of Sagittarius. That's a sigil. So it's like it's an arrow with a cross. So it's like crosses and arrowheads, circles and crescents. You can basically write all the signs and all the planets with those four symbols. All right. It's just where they're positioned, as it were. For example, like Mars. Okay. Like it's a circle with an arrowhead. The original one was actually a cross. It's like an inversion of Venus, with the cross, and there's the circle, and you invert it back up, that symbol. So this is Yeah, so it's high aims or high ideals, high idealism.
Okay, gotcha. Okay.
Yeah, there's a lot. I could just read out all the emotions, positive and negative, of each of the signs, but we'll leave that for next time, well after the dragons, apparently.
Apparently. You do realise, of course, that buddy, poor old Hercules, you know, he was the offspring of Zeus and a human
Leto.
woman. And of course,
Oh,
Hera being Zeus's wife and sister, got a bit peeved off about Zeus wandering, and put Hercules on those 12 missions, isn't it? So really, it was
exactly, and blinded him in the end. Yeah, he went mad, and he actually killed his own teacher, you know, by mistake, which is kind of a very alchemical paradox in regards to some of the advanced writings about that. You know, students surpassing the teacher. So yeah, Hercules' teacher was Chiron, the wounded healer. So if you're looking into, I suppose, these new aspects of astrology in the last 40, 50 years, Chiron is a planetoid between Saturn and Uranus. All right, it's not part of the actual moons of Saturn, and it's not part of the moon system of Uranus. It's its own sort of thing. It runs around on its own aspect, but it has a lot of connection to those particular planets. So it's very much to the wounded healer. That's Chiron, the centaur. But Sagittarius is another centaur, and there's more centaurs in the sky. I'd like to do, if you want to go into what we call advanced astrology and astronomy, we can talk about that. We'll talk about the myths and the legends and the laws, and we go all over the planet, you know, and how they relate to different things. I mean, there's different aspects of astrology. The Mesoamerican one's quite different because they're tracking time portals and things like that. A lot more advanced to the 20s. Capricorn, the goat. Now, this is an interesting sign and symbol, right? Relates to the planet Saturn and Earth. All right. Yes. So once again, combinations we've had before. We had Sagittarius with the human part, the spiritual ascension, also the primeval, or that very connected to Earth and nature, and that fiery, adventurous sort of spirit. The Capricorn is a lot more reserved, right? The original sign is like not like a triton or a hippogriff, okay? Like it's a combination with the watery tail. A little bit to get into. Now, Capricorn is to Saturn, and Saturn is like a 27 to 30 year cycle in its procession, okay? So it's the reaper, the grim reaper. So it harvests the soul. So in a 30-year cycle or 27, 30-year cycle, you'll find there's a lot of, obviously movie stars and actors and things every 20, it's called a 27 club, 28 club or whatever. And they're like shooting stars. They burn out very fast, as it were. So like they die on that cycle. They don't make it, because if you're not doing what you're meant to be doing karmically in your mission, remember, karma is cause and effect, or every action has a reaction. Now, Saturn takes care of that. That whole planet is dedicated to making sure that happens. So it's a Saturnian aspect, relates to the day Saturn's day, Saturday, Saturn's day, Saturnian energy. So Saturnius, that festival is actually in December, okay? That's what, prior to the Christian putting it on, it was a Saturnian Roman, and it was also in pagan. Pagan just means people of the country. It doesn't mean bad at all. Pagan are people that work with the natural laws of nature, as it were. So what's going on here, you sort of see that wisdom there. Capricorn, and particularly Saturn's got like a real earth to it. It's the last of our cardinal cross points. It's a cardinal cross point. It's to earth, and it has a lot to do with control and wealth and balance, and very, very sure and steady. Ever seen goats? They'll always want to climb up. They just want to climb up. They just want to climb up. That's what they want to do. Many types of different goats, and they're quite wanting to stay on top, as it were. So the symbolism there, is very strong. It's obviously to the earth element, and once again, Saturn is it's not just an earthen planet, it's actually an ethereal earthen planet. So there's a lot there. It controls a lot of wealth and the finances, the banking aspects, okay? So, and material goods and things like that, but also to cycles and the harvest aspects, Saturn. That's where the name Satan comes from. So you'll see the Grim Reaper as well as, Satan, that Saturnian energy. It's sort of quite dark. Okay, this is the actual constellation of the sky. Looks kind of like a large triangle. That distorted part of the triangle is actually the head of the goat, if you look at it there. The main star really for Capricorn is Dabi and Gedi. They're not interestingly powerful sort of stars, but there's a strength there to that goat, that cyclic aspect. Okay, so Capricornians are quite Saturnian, and they can be quite miserly and things like that. But depends how it's aspected in your chart. It could be the absolute opposite of that, as it were, depending if you've got all these things that don't work with it. But yeah, and once again, goats, there's a herd of goats, but some other goats are quite solitary creatures, as it were, and they tend to be there, or they'll be like to a hidden connection to their other herds. So you got mountain goats that are different to let's say an ibex or something like that. Yeah, so Capricorn. Moving along to our very last of the fixed signs, which is Aquarius the water bearer. Okay, Aquarius the water bearer. Originally used to be to Saturn in the old charts, but now of course we have it to Uranus. Okay, very Uranian, and that's new kind of energy, new age, high ideal, science, that kind of energy. They're very I suppose, I wouldn't say just extrovert, this is quite a generalization, but it is to the water bearer and liquid energy. Ironically, Aquarius, aqua is water, but the rest, it is the most powerful air sign. So air and water go together like feng shui, flow and movement. And this is where you get this double energy in the fixed signs. So there's a lot of air and a lot of water here. So Aquarius, of course, Billabong, the company, that they use that's their symbol, they use that. So you'll see this in nature if you know what you're looking for, also in society, in logos. Logos means God, by the way. So you have a logo, that's your God name or your presentation. There's a lot going there. It's taking death to new heights and new birth and new realms there. You'll see the 7 water lilies there. There's a lot going on in that. In High Arcana relates to card number 18, the star as well. That is to higher aspects of the sun. Uranus's energy is very, very deep and mystical. After Saturn, when you start getting to the actual depth of Uranus, it's very, very powerful in the symbolism. It relates to the serpent energy and that kind of planetary energy. So Aquarius is symbolized in, I suppose, in the form of the angel on this planet. Without a doubt, it is the angel. So if you see a lot of angelic energy, like as in statues and, written in buildings and things like that, that has a lot of that Aquarius energy. That's what that relates to. So there's different types of angels. Obviously, the Aquarian aspect in the fixed sign relates to that high angelic energy, not just like angels and archangels. I'm talking like principles, thrones, dominions, that kind of an energy, higher angelic energy, as it were, and the liquid or the flow. Just relaxing there.
See this individual here?
Yeah, the sigils there. One is Uranus over there to the top left of the card, and the other one on the right is Saturn. So it has a balance. So after Saturn, you get to Uranus. Now, the outer planets aren't in the they're not in the days of the week. You have the 7 main planets because they're more into our normal affairs. Whereas once you start getting past Saturn, you're really getting to really deep, next level spirituality. It's what we do with the Kabbalah. Uranus relates to Sumeria and dragon and serpentine energy, Kundalini. I'll talk about that later if I get a chance, if we don't run out of time. What time are we wrapping up? Is it 8:30 or 9? 9 in Australian time. We're going good? Okay, we're rolling. Okay. So interesting that's the spiral clock and that's the time.
Yeah. Time up.
Yeah, well, it's bending and twisting. So I'm going to get you guys to have a chat soon. We'll just have one more constellation to go. after Aquarius, and this will be our last of the mutable and our 12th sign. Okay, Aquarius is the 11th sign. That's Aquarius. There, two main stars are Saddle Melech, and you can put Fomholt in there. That's like to the fish, the water of life. You carry water. You carry water like you used to. We actually carry water in our body, so liquid energy. There's a lot going on to the actual makeup and the raising of the frequency of our liquids, as it were. Higher vibrational blood, high vibrational energy, our spiritual liquids, as it were. A lot more into that as well. So Aquarius, Saddle Melech, and Fomholt. Fomholt's a really big powerhouse to being a fixed star. There's really there's a lot of grunt there. So Fomholt's just below it in another constellation, but we see it once again. Aquarius being a fixed sign, it's got that double kind of energy. You think it's one thing and it's another, as it were. So, there are paradoxes that we start to approach, but understanding paradoxes is good. It's a serendipity moment, as it were. Pisces, the fishes. Once again, the last of our water signs is the last in the mutable cross. Okay, so it's the water and the mutable cross. So each of the crosses have fire, air, earth, and water. Each of the crosses have fire, earth, air, and water. The 4 points of the cross, and they become the 5th element, okay, which is ether, which actually creates everything, keeps it all moving, or akasa or akasha, as it were. So Pisces to the fishes is quite a large constellation. It's very hard to see in the sky unless you're away from a lot of artificial light, if you're looking for it. It's quite long. It's like there's an umbilical cord between these two fishes, symbolically. In the higher aspects, it's to Neptune. Originally, it was to Jupiter, I believe, in the before they used the outer planets. But then again, interestingly enough, the ancient cultures knew about the outer planets and they had it written. So Pisces, they make excellent psychics, very good readers, holistic people. They're very perceptive, and they can be football captains, whatever. They're very together, as it were, or when they're in this world, but they're like living in two worlds. They're very much in the astral planes. They're very quite dreamy in that kind of makeup there. Neptune, once again, it's the top of the tree of life. There's a lot of energy there. Relates to obviously to the symbol of the trident. There's a lot of power there. The two fishes, obviously, lost souls, as it were, or finding their own way again. It's the 12th. It's the 12th sign of the Zodiac, and it actually has a lot of depth of character. And it's kind of like the culmination, if you go around the wheel of life, or this big clock face, as we come through this is usually around the Ides of March. So you want to be very careful around there. So everything that you've done in the year will accumulate. So you'll hit, if something's about to happen, it'll happen. I find usually in Pisces, it'll just like if you've accumulated this karmic debt, or you've accumulated something that you've done bad for, it'll surface, and you'll be, it'll be exposed, or it'll come to you in a way that you might not be expecting it. There's usually 2 circles there. Okay, so Pisces to the 2 fishes. All right, and that'll complete our basic constellations for this evening, the 12, as it were. Yeah, it's a better sign. One or the other, like too. Sometimes these artists aren't as good as I want them to be, but I do like Joffrey's work, and there's a lot of symbolism there. So if you look him up, okay, Joffrey, so you spell it. He's a Dutch artist, as it were, and he painted a lot of really interesting things. Like Escher and other artists, they're quite otherworldly, very creative.
Yeah, I loved all the pictures that you put up, and like there's so much in them to look at. Very informative.
Yeah. I take my hat off to the artists. Not that I'm wearing a hat, but if I did, I'd take it off.
Right, there were a few questions. Can we?
Yeah, let's do a Q&A before we move into another dimension.
Mm-hmm. Right, Andrew says, Wizard.
Yeah.
What does your reference to different types of crosses per sign mean?
That is what's actually happening in cathedrals. Okay, each of the crosses. So I was saying before, the Christian faith is set up on the three crosses. Remember when they nailed Christ to the cross? He's the middle pillar, okay, which is the tree of life. So he's there. That's the fixed cross. Either side is the robber and the thief, okay, but that's a bit more coarse, but it's mercy and severity. So mercy is the mutable cross, and the cardinal cross is severity, whatever, but the three crosses. So if you look at a papal cross, you'll see three tiers, okay? If you go to Eastern Europe, you'll see three-tiered crosses. You don't see just like the single, sticks like we have here, the boring, single. That's, cross of St. Peter's. You look at that. I've actually got a chart on different crosses, everything from 5 foots to Celtic crosses, and the different crosses across the world. So three crosses relate. So the three crosses relate to masculine, feminine, and neutral, which is what we sort of, I suppose, we ascend to. When we ascend our energy, we become like I suppose androgyne, as it were. I don't mean that like as some sort of weird hermaphrodite or anything, there. Not that I'm knocking that. I mean, if that's your thing, fine. But the three crosses relate to the three crosses of Calvary, and Calvary was the hill where Christ was nailed, as it were. And I'm just using that as a figurative aspect, but the crosses go far further back. Okay, cross is a universal symbol. It's not just taken by Christ. Cross. Crux is cross, where the energies cross over. And there's three of these times through the years, as it were, these three crosses. So it goes through a major influence or combination of elements, as it were. I don't know if that's explained what it is to you, but if you go to any cathedral, if we start on the fixed crosses soon, I'll go on about the fixed cross, and then you're really going to see it, rather than me just trying to explain it. Because it's a high-end Masonic or Hermetic work that you'll see in these stone buildings, and then you'll look for it if you're prepared to go down that particular avenue. So three crosses symbolize a hell of a lot more. The cross has, it's like any word, in the English language. You could find probably 300 to 900 meanings, for metaphors or similes. So,
right. And
okay,
also,
Greg George, yeah, far away.
What is the cross and the mutable versus fixed?
Okay, cardinal, mutable, and fixed. All right, so fixed cross means those energies are an absolute constant. Mutable is in transition, what we call, transformation, alchemy, basically, or movement or flowing, as it were. Cardinal is like it's like a dead set aspect. So in aspects of, like, say, the Catholic Church, they have the cardinals, as it were. So it's a cardinal sin, so it's a high sin. So if you're looking at the crosses, what they mean, they all have the elements with them, and you carry that cross on your back. We've all got our cross to bear, as it were. So you're actually carrying like karma from previous cycles, previous incarnations, as it were. So you carry that cross. So you carry the cross on your body. There's a 4-point cross and there's 5-point crosses and many different other aspects about it. Probably a little bit more to go into. I've just got a whole presentation just on one cross, and when you sort of see it, you'll see the symbolism. That's the fixed cross, which we'll probably get into, rather than without me, trying to do it without charts and symbols. If you don't know what you're looking for, you won't see it in the cathedrals, as it were. But I could take you to any sacred stone building and I'll point out a cross. You go to any high rise on this planet, basically any high rise, and I'll show you a Masonic star on the floor. I will show you that. It doesn't matter. I don't care. You can take me to Hong Kong, you can go to Santa Fe, you can go down. I'll show you a Masonic cross on every floor. You can go to any shopping center, I'll show you the crosses. I'll show you the Masonic crosses, 4, 8, 6, 12 directions. That's what it means. Okay, so they're relating to that. And it's also, remember, when you go an 8-point cross, that is giving homage to the winds. Okay, you have like the north, the south, the east, and the west, right? And your archangels all. So then you have northeast, northwest, southeast, southwest. So remember, your winds are always in transition. So therefore, you're balancing it. In Asia, they have what's called a feng shui compass. It's quite a serious piece of artillery if you're moving that around. And they douse their buildings and they get it all done right. I've worked on construction sites. I've worked on tunnels and bridges and roads and railways and machines like from another planet than those big sites. Now, if you see the gear, if if you work on a building that hasn't been dowsed or worked properly, you have a lot of issues, big issues, massive issues, problems, structure like cracks under, just drama on drama, like amplified. Whereas if you balance it to the elements, this is what the masters do. I don't care. All the lamestream scientists can tell me whatever they want, because this is advanced in biology, chemistry, physics, mathematics. We're working with 5 dimensions here. We're not working with 3 and that law. So you're paying homage to beings that exist. So it's like a homage, in stone, as it were. So we'll get to that when we get to the next one. Right. Okay, Auntie Carol. Or do you want to ask this, Andrena?
Right, okay. 2 questions. Is Glastonbury one of the special points on the planet? And has Michael heard of the Glastonbury Zodiac?
I have heard of the Glastonbury Zodiac. I don't know. As I said, there's more about that, once again, because it goes back to Celtic. Glastonbury there's a ley line that runs through the south of England, and there are leys everywhere. The main ley line, or what every culture has a name for ley lines. Okay, they're called song lines here in Australia. They're called dragon lines, Long May in China. They're called holy lines in Germany. They're called the lines of Hermes in Greece. They're called fairy lines in Ireland. They know, all right. The ancients know. We know what they had. So Glastonbury, that ley line, it's a very powerful line. Don't know if it has. It runs off the line of St. Michael, or Archangel Michael. So I believe it starts at Old Sarum, and then Salisbury Cathedral, then Stonehenge, Avebury, and then Glastonbury. That there, and it probably goes right out. I'm not exactly sure, but you have a lot of activity there, otherworldly activity. When I traveled there, you could feel there's a real thinning of the veils. You could see you could feel the faces in the trees, where they'd just be in the really ancient oak. The Green Man was there. You had ridiculous crop circle activity. I mean, there was a massive British tank division. They've got an armored division there as well. And I don't know if you've seen some of those, the crop circle videos, when they had, military helicopters chasing these 2 macabre balls, after they've created a crop circle and they're taking off. There's a helicopter chasing after them. I think I don't know if it was Lucy Pringle's one. There was a few of the different ones. So, and if anyone's seen that footage of the crop circle forming in like 10 seconds, these 2 balls done. Yeah. And it's like, you can't, it's not, Doug and Dave, I mean, look at the Julia set. Even with, Sat Nav and a dozen people, you're going to bend stalks. So there's a lot of things that go on in those particular aspects in that. There's a lot of stuff with Glastonbury I know about, I've heard about. I can't prove it. I mean, you fellows live out that way. Glastonbury Tour's got a very strong energy. I did have a very strong connection when I looked up at the stars at night from Glastonbury Tour. Once again, there are different zodiacs, around the place, and Britain's a very funny place. If you go back to ancient Britain, it's not just like England and Wales and Scotland and Ireland, Isle of Man. You've got Cornwall, and there's over 100 kings and queens in these different kingdoms, and even Ireland had over 100, prior to Brian Brunner as well. So at the same time, and this was what was happening in Europe, because a lot of people don't understand what happens in Eastern Europe and Western Europe. They're made up of city-states. They're city-states. So before France and Germany and Italy, these names haven't even been around 200 years, but they're made up of these cities. So if you're going to, Northern Italy, you got Tuscany and Marseille and Piedmont and these things like this. When I was in France, my friend, we're on the border of Italy, my friend's father. I said, what's it like to be so close to the French town? I'm from Provence. They hang on to that very strong, you know what I mean? That they hang on to their city-state rather than the generalized overview, which is a sad thing. I think the original sin these days is generalization. We've got this really dumbed down, watered down attitude, everything. All men think this way, all women think this way, old people think this way, young people think this way. And that to me is a cardinal sin. It's so not how it is at all. You have to take people as individuals. You could have 2 twin cats and they've got personalities, or 2 twin dogs. They're just slightly different. They'll be similar but different. So it's up to the individual personality there. Okay, did I answer that correctly?
Yeah,
Probably.
that'll do very nicely. I think that's about it, isn't it, Jeff? Anything else? So we'll bring it to a close at this moment in time. You can go and have a cup of tea now.
Yeah, there's two more.
Yeah.
There's two more charts. Okay, this is the USB key that Cameron and myself and Vesna, we worked on this. We worked on this as the planet's meditation. So I take you through each planet and you actually meditate on the planet and draw the energies in. This is where people say this would help you gain a ridiculous amount of insight into knowledge, like you do with stones and things. Each planet has a metal associated with it. It has, obviously there's stones and things like that, but each of the planets give you a lot of insight into things, because just with this, they're basic meditations, but they're much more advanced rather than just sort of sitting in the silence. This is what we do in, Hermetic training, so the planets meditation, it's a USB key. You can play in your car, you can listen to it. Not that you want to sort of, trip out to, Jupiter. Well, negotiating a roundabout or doing a reverse park. But the meditations, they're out of this world. They really are. They'll take you, you start to really familiarize yourself with the energies and the quality and quantitative aspects of the planet. And there's hidden aspects there. So in my mind, with retention of thought, and that was working with Mercury. I used to work with Mercury and the sun and the moon. So there's a lot of electromagnetic energy. We build that. That's what advanced Hermetics is. We build a lot of electromagnetic energy within our bodies. Magnetism for this, electric energy for this. Each of the planets, you can access particular elemental vibrations. Plus, then you can move into the deeper metaphysics. And there's a lot of knowledge there. So once again, if you're, for example, if you're an aura reader or you're a sound healer or things like this, imagine that on steroids, like 10 times, 12 times kind of energy. Yeah, you're building it. You can hear it. You hear high frequencies. Most people hear voices and things in their head. What size straitjacket would you like? So whereas we know we're tuning into frequencies of elementals and planetary frequencies, so we know there's going to be a change, and it's very good if you're sharpening your intuition, or if you want to move into, I don't think anyone even does this anymore, prophecy. A lot of psychics think they're prophet. That's it. Prophecy is a whole new ball game. It really is.
What does it fit into?
Prophecy.
No, your key.
It goes straight into the side of your computer, or goes into your car, a stereo. It is. It's USB key. It's got my logo on there.
Yeah, no, but is that made longer? Because that looks like quite long.
Yeah, it is. It's like a key. Yeah,
I've got one here.
Okay, here we go.
How's that going to fit in my computer?
Well, it does. It's a USB stick.
It's a USB. It's a flash drive. Just goes straight in the USB socket. You know what USB means? Universal Serial Bus.
Yeah.
It's like a bus of information. Universal Serial Bus.
Yeah, but it looks long, and I'm thinking, let me see. Okay.
No, see if I can get the reflection on it. There.
Right. Okay.
I should get a photo of that. That's really cool.
Yeah, that's nice.
That's our next album cover. Me and the band. Exactly. We've got two backup singers, man. Exactly. Bass, drum, rhythm, all happening. Let's go. So that's got the planetary meditations on there. It's very, very good. And obviously you're going to get a backstory from Michael Andrew Lamb, as it were. So, and that's my logo too. That's actually my name in Alchemy, because Michael in Alchemy is actually 7 sevens. So yeah, 7.
Oh, right.
So Alchemy's got 7 letters in it, and yeah, Michael's got 7 letters. Very famous friend asked me to do that a long time ago, and I did, and I put it together. So Michael, and you swap out the Y with the I. You got it's an anagram of. And it represents the X-Men coming back, as it were. So, yeah. It's
very nice.
Lightning is my symbol. It's a fifth element kind of thing. Had some pretty interesting video footage of that happen with me when I've been teaching. So, lightning.
I bet.
Yeah, and
anyway,
lightning.
We'll save that for another time, shall we?
Yeah, absolutely. We've all got to eat and drink and get rid of brain cells and get to sleep, as it were. So...
All right.
Is Orpheus a valid 13th zodiac sign? Yes, it is. But more on that later. Orpheus is the 13th sign, and it's the serpent bearer. So I've got it there. I picked this up at this, my camera would probably have a bit of an attack, bit of a hissy fit. So, but if you actually look at Orpheus is in between Scorpio and Sagittarius. There's a lot of energy. It's kind of balancing where we're going to go with the fixed cross and Pleiades, Orion, and Sirius, that part of the sky. The opposite part of the sky to that is Scorpio, Sagittarius, and Orpheus and galactic center. So it's kind of got a ridiculous amount of mystical energy and everything that goes on there. So next time we will talk about Sirius and how it's the gateway star, the dog star. So anything to do with the wolfen and the dog-headed people is Sirius, the underworld, Pluto, guardians of the underworld. That's Sirius, okay, or Cyrus, Isis, that kind of thing. All the other key is the elements. So fire, earth, air, and water, and the fifth element, ether. If you meditate on them, you build your energy in your physical, your mental, astral, and akashic bodies. So you're preparing yourself for moving in and around those planes and dimensions. So you're working with that. Also, if you're going to move into sphere work, if you're going to work with elementary beings such as air spirits, earth spirits, fire spirits, fire deities, and these elements, you need that. And particularly working with really powerful principles or genies, those kind of energies, you've got to have an energy that can kind of match. Otherwise, you knock on a bank door and they're just, no chance. You've got to be able to match that kind of an energy, some regard. So we use magical tools such as swords and wands and things like that. We've got to know what the pentagram means, what the hexagram means, what the heptagram means. So there's a lot more of that. But we'll do that next time. So thank you very much, Jeffrey and Andrena. It's been a real pleasure as usual.
Right. Well, thank you everybody for listening today, and tune in next Thursday, same time, same place.
Yes, thank you so much. So if you want to buy them, check in my website and they're for sale on there. So thank you very much. It's been a blessing.
Thank you.
Thank you. Good evening and good night. And good morning and good afternoon.
All right, there's a bit of a thank you there.
Yeah, thank you very much, Andrew and Greg. I know you guys are hardcore, long-time exponents. You're in the front row at all our concerts. I know they are, exactly. They want to see the lead guitar solo.
Yeah.